This day in sports history. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Christmas will be here before you know it, and you know what would make a great stocking stuffer for everybody in your family? Sterling Soap. From bar soap to shave soap, beard balm to lip balm, aftershaves and lotions, Sterling Soap has something for everyone on your list. Check out their seasonal soaps that will complement the scents of your home this holiday season. And they're more than just soap. They also have a full line of coffee straight from the Sterling Roastery. Find their full line of products at sterlingsoapcompany.com. It's December 6th, and on this day in 1970, the Oakland Raiders came up with another miracle finish. The 1970 Raiders liked to live life on the edge, and they made a living out of comebacks. One of those comebacks was not a game, but a player. George Blanda had been cut by the Raiders during the preseason, but rejoined the team and played his 21st professional season. Now, his foot and his arm both proved crucial for Oakland in 1970. He led a comeback with his arm in October against Pittsburgh. His right foot kicked the last-second game winner to beat Kansas City the following week. Blanda came off the bench the next week in Cleveland to throw a late touchdown to tie the game, and then he kicked a 53-yarder to beat the Browns. Amazingly, he did it again as a replacement of starter Daryl Lamonica, and he threw a late touchdown in a surprise win over Denver. A last-minute go-ahead field goal against San Diego provided another dramatic win for the Raiders. Well, on this day, the Raiders were in New York playing the Jets. New York took a 10-0 lead in the first half before Lamonica ended the scoring drought with a touchdown pass to Warren Wells. The Jets added another field goal to make it 13-7. After a Lamonica interception, it looked like the Raiders' magic was about to come to an end. The Jets were forced to punt the ball away with 30 seconds left, though. The Raiders were out of timeouts, and they had 70 yards of snow-dusted field in front of them. With the aid of a pass interference call, the Raiders advanced up the field to set up the final play of the game. Here's Raiders play-by-play man Bill King with the call from that day.
Well, this is stringing it right to the end. They may not have another one. It's 13-7 New York. 8 seconds to go. Lamonica comes in. Wells is back in for Bolitnikov. He's to the left. Sherman to the right. Loose quarterback coverage. They're way off. They don't want to give up the bomb. Lamonica's back. He looks. He's throwing deep for Wells in traffic. It's better room. Wells catches the ball. Wells has caught the ball. Wells has caught a touchdown. And it's tied 13-13.
It was another comeback for the Oakland Raiders. Unfortunately, that was Warren Wells' last touchdown catch in the NFL. Legal troubles caught up with him in January 1971, stemming from a domestic abuse charge in '69 and a violation of his probation earlier in 1970. He was arrested in the locker room following the Pro Bowl, and he never played football again. On this day in 1997, the Tennessee Volunteers turned the ball over 6 times and still won the SEC championship game. Tennessee was 10-1 and number 3 in the country, and they were facing off against a 9-2 Auburn Tiger team ranked 11th in the nation. This was a Peyton Manning, Jamal Lewis, Peerless Price offense, and yet it was sputtering a bit in this one. Through 3 quarters, the Vols had coughed up 4 fumbles. One had been picked up and returned for a touchdown. 2 of Peyton Manning's passes had been picked, and they'd also had an extra point blocked and run back for 2 points. Still, with all those issues, they only trailed by 6 with 11.5 to play in the 4th. Here's Keith Jackson with the call for ABC's coverage that night.
Quick throw, pass complete, first down the sideline. It's Nash, and he is gone.
That was a Manning to Marcus Nash hookup that resulted in a 73-yard touchdown to put Tennessee up 1. But there was still a lot of time left. The Tennessee defense stepped up and shut down Damian Craig and the Tiger offense, and then when Jamal Lewis broke off a 20-yard run on a 3rd and 5 with under a minute to play, it was celebration time for the Vols with the 30-29 win in the SEC title game. On this day in 2003, Kansas State surprised a lot of folks when they beat Oklahoma to win their first Big 12 championship. The Wildcats had had a decent year in '03. They were 10-3 coming into this one and ranked number 13 in the country. But they didn't exactly have the pedigree of Oklahoma. Kansas State had not played for a conference title since the 1930s. On the other hand, the Sooners had won 7 national championships since 1950. Add to that, they were ranked number 1, and they were a perfect 12-0 on the year. Oklahoma hadn't just won, they had won by an average of 35 points a game in their 12 wins that year. There were some knowledgeable football folks touting the '03 Sooners as the best college football team ever assembled. So logically, K-State had no shot. And yet, that's why they play these games, right? They're not played on paper, they're played on the field. The first couple of series stuck to the script, though. The Wildcats went 3 and out, and the Sooners cranked up the offense and put 7 on the board. But that's when K-State started to flip that script. They had Darren Sproles, who set up their first score. They also had a heck of a quarterback in L. Robertson. Coach Bill Snyder called him the toughest football player that he'd ever seen. He'd led the Wildcats to 7 straight wins while struggling with a laundry list of injuries and ailments. When he connected with James Terry for a 63-yard touchdown, K-State had the lead, and for only the second time that season, the Sooners trailed in a ball game. Another touchdown throw to Sproles, and Oklahoma was reeling at the half. Sooner fans were anticipating a comeback in the second half, but a missed field goal on their first drive and a pick-6 thrown by quarterback Jason White, and the game was all but over. Robertson threw his 4th touchdown pass of the game, and K-State had embarrassed a seemingly invincible Oklahoma team 35-7. It was their first Big 12 title and their first conference championship since 1934. On this day in 1974, it was the first and only World Bowl. Well, unless you count the 2000s reboot of the WFL, which I am not. The World Football League had been the idea of Gary Davidson, who was also one of the original investors in the ABA and the World Hockey League. The concept of the WFL was to take on the NFL head-to-head, and just like the other 2 rebel leagues that he'd started, maybe get some of those teams swallowed up by the bigger league. It was also supposed to have an international flavor, but the closest that they actually got was a team based in Hawaii. Now, the league did rush its start by a full year. Originally, 1975 was supposed to be the start year, but labor issues in the NFL bumped it up to 1974. But that doomed the league to ultimate failure. It barely made it to the World Bowl. But in the World Bowl, it was the Birmingham Americans and the Florida Blazers. The score makes this game look like it was a barn burner. However, Birmingham built up a 22-0 lead thanks to plays like this. Here's Merle Harmon with the call for TBS that day.
Jenkins wide to the left and to the right side, Holman on 2nd and 9. Myra looks and throws, and Brown, the tight end, wide open touchdown. Bob Brown scoring for the Birmingham Americans.
Now, in the WFL, touchdowns counted a full 7 points. Kick conversions did not exist, but a scoring team could run or pass from the 5-yard line for a 2-pointer. The Blazers rallied for 21 points but could never convert one of their 2-pointers and came up a point short. Birmingham won 22-21. The league promised $10,000 to the winning team, but instead of bringing a check to midfield, league officials brought cash. The reason? Nobody in the league had any faith that the check would be able to be cashed. The WFL and its teams were hemorrhaging money. Birmingham was rewarded for their World Bowl win with federal folks coming into the locker room and taking possession of any equipment that had value to pay a $237,000 tax debt. Players on both teams have been playing without being paid for the past several weeks. The WFL actually started a second season in 1975, but they did not make it to the postseason. The league shut down business 12 weeks into Season 2.
Are you a hockey fan? Then you'll love Eric Zweig's new book, Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2.
It's a treasure trove of untold tales, bizarre incidents, and captivating trivia that will leave even the most devoted puckhead astounded. The intense rivalries, epic showdowns, and historic clashes that shaped the NHL's early years, it's all in there. Zweig uncovers the true stories that helped shape the sport, ensuring that you will never look at hockey the same way again. Check out Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2 on Amazon or wherever fine books are sold. On this day in 1992, Jerry Rice caught his 101st touchdown of his career, moving past Steve Largent in the first place on the all-time TD receptions list.
Brilliant wide receiver from Mississippi Valley State. He's out to the left. There it is, 101!
So this was Rice's 8th season in the league. Largent accumulated his 100 touchdown catches in 14 seasons with the Seahawks. Rice would go on to nearly double the record, finishing with 197 touchdown catches in his 20-year career, a record that still stands today. In fact, there's no one even close. Number 2 is the retired Randy Moss at 156. The closest active player is Tampa's Mike Evans, who has 101. Interestingly, Rice was actually robbed of a TD reception earlier in this game against Miami. In the first half, Rice caught a ball at the 1 and snuck in the end zone inside the pylon, but the side judge ruled him out, postponing the record until the fourth quarter. In today's NFL, with video review, Rice would have had the record earlier and 198 career touchdown catches. Also on this day in sports history, in 1961, Syracuse running back Ernie Davis became the first African-American to win the Heisman Trophy. In his senior season, he rushed for 823 yards and 12 touchdowns and caught 2 more for scores, leading the Orange to an 8-3 record, a win in the Liberty Bowl, and a number 14 final ranking. He was the top pick in the subsequent NFL draft, but sadly never played a game in the league. Davis died in 1963 from leukemia. He was only 23 years old. Time now for today's non-sports Did You Know? In Victorian England, officers investigating the Jack the Ripper murders thought that maybe the image of the killer had been retained in the victim's retinas. A photographer was instructed to concentrate on the eyes of the victim, and while that did not pan out like they had hoped, it did begin the practice of crime scene photography. That's all for today. I'll have more tomorrow on This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.